Hello, everybody. Did you enjoy the international break? Did you stop thinking about football for a bit? Enjoy the bountiful nature that God has given to us? Or did you spend 2 hours watching England's interim manager grind out a 2-0 win at home to Finland in the second tier of the Nations League? Did you focus on the important things, family, your health, the joys of life? Or did you put on an 18-fold acca which was ruined by Saudi Arabia's last-minute winner away to China? Did you feel refreshed from not being consumed by this sport, like a prisoner on his first day out, which a lot of people are at the moment in England? Or did you want to end it all because your captain got injured just before the most important game of the season? Well, anyway, you're here again, stuck, ready to consume another game week of Premier League action. It never stops. Never. The early game on Saturday sees Southampton take on Man United. The Saints lost their last game 3-1 away to Brentford using a 3-5-2 with Aaron Ramsdale in goal and a back three of Taylor Harwood-Bellis, Jan Bednarek and captain Jack Stevens. Yukinari Sugawara, Will Smallbone, Flynn Downs, Joe Aribo and Carl Walker-Peters were the midfield five, with Adam Armstrong and Ben Brereton up front. Alex McCarthy, James Bree, Charlie Taylor, Adam Lallana, Mateusz Fernandes, Leslie Ogachukwu, Tyler Dibling, Cameron Archer, and Sam Amiyor were on the bench. Harwood Bellis was booked before Brian and Burmo put the Saints behind just before half time. At the break, Fernandes and Archer came on for Smallbone and Armstrong, while 10 minutes later, Dibling replaced Harwood Bellis, and Burmo made it 2 after another 10 minutes, while Johan Rissa made it 3-0 soon after. Lallana came on for Aribo with 10 to go, while Sugawara scored a consolation in injury time. Ross Stewart should be back now after returning to full training before the international break, but Gavin Bazunu and Kamaldeen Sulemana remain unavailable for the Saints. Manchester United also come off a defeat 3-0 at home to Liverpool. Andre Onana started in goal with a back four of Nocer Mazraoui, Matthias de Ligt, Lissandro Martinez and Diogo Dalot. Casemiro and Kobe Mainu started in holding midfield with a front four of Alejandro Garnacho, captain Bruno Fernandes, Marcus Rashford and Joshua Zirkzee. Altay Bayindir, Tom Heaton, Harry Maguire, Johnny Evans, Christian Eriksen, Toby Collier, Amad Diallo, Anthony and Ethan Wheatley were on the bench. Zirkzee got booked about halfway through the first period, while 10 minutes from half time, Luis Diaz put United behind. Martinez was booked 5 minutes later, while Diaz made it 2 soon after. Mainu was booked in injury time. Collier replaced Casemiro at the break, while 10 minutes later, Mohamed Salah made it 3-0. De Ligt was booked 10 minutes after that and was soon replaced by Maguire, with Diallo also on for Garnacho. With 5 minutes to go, Eriksen came on for Zirkzee. 6 players are out for United: Lenny Yoro, Tyrone Mamasia, Mason Mount, Victor Lindelof, Luke Shaw, and Rasmus Winter Hoyland. There were worries about Fernandes after picking up a knock to his ankle in Portugal's win over Scotland, but he finished the game and said it was just a bump, thus making him fit. There's a lot to think about for both managers, but I think the chips are with Erik ten Hag here. Obviously, he innovated with a false nine against Fulham and Brighton, but then reverted by bringing on Zirkzee. Southampton like to keep the ball, and so if he wants to return to that high press, he could catch the Saints out in possession in their own final third, which was their undoing against Newcastle and Brentford. However, Mason Mount is injured, and if he wants to play Fernandes up front, he'll need to find someone else to slot in at number 10. Perhaps Christian Eriksen can play this one. Manuel Ugarte is surely going to replace Casemiro now as well, and the Uruguayan will bug Southampton even more, with the second most tackles per 90 in Europe's top 5 leagues last season, while even without him, United already had the most tackles in the league. Russell Martin needs a rethink, and his squad are an absolute mess. Can he really play possession football against high-pressing Man United with any success? No. If Ten Hag gets it right, I see United bouncing back with a big scoreline. However, they've struggled to take chances, and if Southampton decide to sit back instead, then they could have more problems. I'll give the Red Devils a morale-boosting 3-0 win. To the 3 p.m. games as Brighton host Ipswich. Brighton drew their last game 1-1 away to Arsenal using a 4-2-3-1 with Bart Verbruggen in goal. There was a back four of Joel Veltman, Jan-Paul van Hecke, Captain Lewis Dunk and Jack Hinchelwood, while James Milner and Carlos Baleba were the engine room. Yankuba Minte, Joao Pedro and Kaoru Mitoma played behind Danny Welbeck in a front four. Jason Steele, Tariq Lamptey, Igor Julio, Adam Webster, Pervis Estupinian, Julio Enciso, Yassin Ayari, Jorginho Rutter, and Simon Adingra were on the bench. Early on, Milner was forced off for Ayari. Brighton found themselves behind due to Kai Havertz before the break, but Pedro equalised on the hour mark, while Minte was booked 10 minutes later. He was replaced by Rutter, while Estupinian came on for Veltman. With 5 to go, Adingra and Enciso came on for Mittermer and Welbeck. Pedro was booked in injury time. Matthew O'Reilly is still out, as is Solly March. Milner's hamstring injury will also put him on the sidelines. Matt Zavifa is back in training, and Fabian Hutzler said they'll make a decision on the day, while the Seagulls manager said it might be a possibility that Ferdi Cariolo is fit. Nothing was said on Brahan Gruder, who hasn't featured all season due to a niggle, but there is some good news as Joel Veltman is confirmed fit to play. Ipswich also drew 1-1 at home to Fulham in their last game. They used a 4-2-3-1 with Arianet Muric in goal and a back four of Axel Twanzebe, Luke Wolfenden, Jacob Greaves and Leif Davis. Captain Sam Morsey and Calvin Phillips were in the engine room with a front four of Chidozie Ogbene, Omari Hutchinson and Sam Smoddix behind Liam Delap. Christian Walton, Ben Johnson, Connor Townsend, Dora O'Shea, Jens Kajust, Massimo Luongo, Connor Chaplin, Ali Al-Hamadi and Jack Clark were on the bench. Delap gave them an early lead, but Adama Traore equalised after half an hour. Morsey was booked 5 minutes later. Phillips was replaced by Kijus 20 minutes from time, with Clark and Al-Hamadi on for Smoddix and Delap with 10 to go. Chaplin also came on for Ogbene late on, while Al-Hamadi was booked in injury time. Harry Clark and Nathan Broadhead are out, while Genoy Donatian is out of contract. Wesley Burns and George Hurst are back in training, and Kieran McKenna said it's not impossible they could feature, with Burns considered the more likely. There is some more good news for the Tractor Boys, as Omari Jiro Hutchinson, who pulled out of the England under-21 squad, is fit to start. Brighton have looked really positive at the start of this season, demolishing Everton away and fighting to the death to win against Man United. They also picked up a 4-0 win over rivals Crawley in the League Cup. They looked second best against Arsenal, but after a red card, managed to get a point. They are at home to an Ipswich side which has been able to take the sting out of games sometimes, but I just think Brighton have too much attacking quality for Ipswich to cope, and the Tractor Boys lack the same options going the other way. Brighton have strong wingers in Mittermer and Minte, with Pedro also drifting wide, and I'm not sure that Ipswich's fullbacks can cope. I'll say a confident 3-0 win for the Seagulls. Two winless sides meet as Crystal Palace host Leicester. Palace drew their last game 1-1 away to Chelsea. They used a 3-4-2-1 with Dean Henderson in goal and a back three of Nathaniel Klein, Captain Mark Gay and Chris Richards. Daniel Munoz, Adam Wharton, Will Hughes and Tyrick Mitchell were the midfield four, with Daichi Kamada and Eberechi Eze behind Jean-Philippe Mateta, Remy Matthews, Joel Ward, Jeffrey Schlupp, Cheikh Doucouré, Caden Rodney, Justin Devaney, Asha Agbenone, Ismail Assar and Franco Ume Chibueze were on the bench. Hughes picked up an early yellow before Nicholas Jackson put the Eagles behind. Early in the second half, Doucouré replaced Hughes. Soon after, Eze equalised. Sarr came on for Mateta with 20 minutes to go, while late on, Schlupp replaced Kamada. Munoz was booked. At the time of writing, Oliver Glasner was yet to do his press conference, but this game is likely to come too early for Mateus Frensa de Oliveira and Chadi Riyad Dianu. Wharton pulled out of the England under-21 squad, with Glasner stating that it's about load management for the midfielder, meaning he can play but may not be 100%. Rob Holding has been training out of the first-team squad due to a non-fitness issue, but Glasner has stated that Holding knows the reason. But it is something that stays between Rob and me. Nothing public. Leicester lost their last game 2-1 at home to Aston Villa. They used a 4-2-3-1 with Mads Hermansen in goal and a back four of James Justin, Wout Fass, Caleb Okoli and Victor Christiansen. Harry Winks and Oliver Skip were in the engine room with a front four of Abdul Fatawu, Wilfred Ndidi and Jordan Ayew behind captain Jamie Vardy. Daniel Everson, Ricardo Pereira, Yannick Vestergaard, Bilal El Kanous, Bubakari Sumare, Facundo Buonanotte, Steffi Mavadidi and Bobby Decordova-Reid were on the bench. Skip was booked halfway through the first period, and the Foxes soon saw themselves behind thanks to Amadou Onana. An hour in, John Duran made it 2. 5 minutes later, Mavadidi, Buonanotte and Al Kanous came on for Ayew, Fatawu and Skip, and soon after, Buonanotte put the Foxes back in it. Okoli was booked straight after, while Vardy picked up a yellow 10 from time. Decordova-Reid came on for Ndidi just before injury time, while McAteer replaced Okoli and Winks was booked in stoppage time. Jakub Stolochuk and Patson Daka are out, while Odson Edouard is ineligible to face his parent club. Decordova-Reid Reid arrived late back from international duty with Jamaica, but there is nothing to suggest he is unfit to start. Palace have stumbled out of the gates this season with 1 point from 3 league games. Leicester have the same tally despite starting well with a draw at home to Tottenham. 2-2-1 losses followed away to Fulham and at home to Villa. Given their performances and creation, Palace would be disappointed to get no points from 2 against Brentford away and at home to West Ham, but they were fortunate to get a point away to Chelsea. They are hoping the addition of Eddie Nketiah can help turn input into output, and Emirates Stadium is still a massive difference maker. Leicester can be a pain though, and I think they'll fashion a goal, but I see another 2-1 loss for them, and Palace's first win of the season. Fulham host West Ham in a capital clash. The West London side drew 1-1 away to Ipswich in their last match. They used a 4-3-3 with captain Bernd Leno in goal and a back four of Kenny Tete, Issa Diop, Calvin Bassey and Anthony Robinson. Andreas Pereira, Sasa Lukic and Emil Smith-Rowe with a midfield three, with a front three of Adama Traore, Rodrigo Muniz and Alex Iwobi. Stephen Bender, Joachim Anderson, Jorge Suenza, Timothy Castagna, Harrison Reed, Harry Wilson, Tom Kearney, Sander Berger, and Raul Jimenez were on the bench. They fell behind to Liam Delap, but Traore levelled things. Lukic was booked soon after half-time, and Robinson was soon after. Berger replaced Smith-Rowe before Traore was booked. Jimenez came on for Muniz with 10 minutes to go, while Reed, Wilson and Kearney replaced Lukic, Iwobi and Pereira late on. Fulham are the only team free of injuries in the division. West Ham lost their last game 3-1 at home to Man City. They used a 4-2-3-1 with Alphonse Areola starting in goal. Aaron Wan-Bissaka, Konstantinos Mavropanos, Maximilian Kilman and Emerson were the back four. Guido Rodriguez and Edson Alvarez were in the engine room, with captain Jared Bowen, Lucas Paquetá and Mohamed Kudus behind Mikel Antonio in the front four. Łukasz Fabianski, Vladimir Sufal, Jon-Claire Todibo, Kalen Casey, Andy Irving, Thomas Soucek, Crescencio Somerville, Niklas Füllkrug and Luis Guilherme were on the bench. The Irons found themselves behind early on through Erling Haaland, but were back level thanks to a Ruben Dias own goal. However, Haaland restored the deficit. At half-time, Fabianski replaced Areola, while Emerson was booked on the hour mark, and Kilman soon after. With 20 minutes to go, Sufal and Füllkrug replaced Emerson and Antonio, while 5 minutes later, Rodriguez was booked. Soucek then came on for Alvarez, but late on, Haaland took the game out of West Ham's reach. Somerville replaced Bowen after that. Aaron Cresswell is probably still out. Füllkrug missed Germany's draw with the Netherlands, but Julen Lopetegui said he would make a decision the day before the match. Areola is fine and was able to link up with the France squad. Fulham have had some concerning numbers, but have 4 points from their opening three, plus a win in the League Cup. The problems mostly come in chance creation, and West Ham will hope to limit them here. The Irons have a pretty average 5 goals against in 4 games in all competition, and have failed to control possession so far, although they have played tough games against City and Villa. I can see them snatching this one even if they don't have Füllkrug. 1-0 away win. North now, as Liverpool host Nottingham Forest. The Reds' last game was a 3-0 win away to Man U. They used a 4-2-3-1 with Alisson Becker in goal. Trent Alexander-Arnold, Ibrahima Konate, captain Virgil van Dijk and Andy Robertson were the back four, with Ryan Gravenberch and Alexis McAllister in holding midfield. Mohamed Salah, Dominic Szoboszlai and Luis Diaz were behind Diogo Jota in a front four. Queeman Kelleher, Joe Gomez, Kostas Tsimikas, Jarell Quansah, Connor Bradley, Wataru Endo, Harvey Elliott, Darwin Nunez and Cody Gakpo were on the bench. Diaz scored the opener 10 minutes before half-time and got another just before the break. 10 minutes after the interval, Van Dijk was booked, and straight after, Salah made it 3. 10 minutes later, Gakpo replaced Diaz, while Nunez and Bradley replaced Jota and Alexander-Arnold another 10 minutes after that. Tsimikas also replaced Robertson late on. The Reds are definitely without Harvey Elliott, while Curtis Jones is close to returning. Alexis McAllister had some worries while on Argentina duty, but managed to come off the bench in their loss to Colombia. Federico Chiesa has not featured yet, but there is no indication of an injury, with the understanding being that the Italian is simply being given time to settle in. Forest drew their last game 1-1 at home to Wolves. They used a 4-2-3-1 with Matt Sells in goal and a back four of Neco Williams, Nikola Milenkovic, Murillo and Ola Aina. Ibrahim Songare and Elliot Anderson were in the engine room, while Anthony Elanga, captain Morgan Gibbs-White and Callum Hudson-Odoi sat behind Chris Wood in a front four. Carlos Miguel, Alex Moreno, Williano Bolli, Nicolas Dominguez, Ryan Yates, Taiwo Aoniyi, Eric da Silva Moreira, Jota Silva and Ramon Sosa were on the bench. Wood put Forest in front, but Bellegarde Bogard immediately equalised. Songare got booked 5 minutes before half time. Yates replaced the Ivorian after an hour, while Sosa came on for Hudson Odoi with 10 to go. Anderson was booked late on, while Awani and Silva replaced Anderson and Elanga in injury time. Gibbs White was also booked. Danilo dos Santos de Oliveira is definitely out for the East Midlands outfit. Bolly is a doubt after picking up a knock in Cote d'Ivoire training, while Sangre also withdrew from the Ivorian squad and his situation is unclear. That would be a big loss to Forest, who already have a big ask away to a Liverpool side who have had a storming start to life under Arne Slot. Forest are unbeaten in 4 in all competitions so far this season, although that does include a defeat on penalties in the League Cup, but I don't expect much from them here. Liverpool will likely not exit second gear, although they do have to be careful with Chris Wood ready to take any chance on the break for Forest, who have the most direct attacks in the league. I was debating whether or not to give Liverpool the clean sheet, but I think that I will. 2-0 Reds. Short trip from Anfield to the Etihad as Man City host Brentford. City won their last game 3-1 away to West Ham. They used a 3-2-4-1 with Ederson in goal and the back three of Manuel Akanji, Ruben Dias and Joshko Vardio. Rico Lewis and Mateo Kovacic were in the engine room with Jeremy Doku, Bernardo Silva, captain Kevin De Bruyne and Jack Grealish behind Erling Haaland in the front five. Stefan Ortega, Carl Walker, John Stones, Nathan Ake, Rodri, Ilkay Gundogan, Mateusz Nunes, Nico O'Reilly and James McAtee were on the bench. Haaland scored an early opener, but soon after Dias scored an own goal. However, 10 minutes later, Haaland got his second to restore the lead. De Bruyne was booked just before half-time. With 25 minutes to go, Gundogan replaced Doku, and 5 later, Nunes replaced Grealish. Haaland got his hat-trick to double the lead with 10 minutes to go. After this, Ake and Walker came on for De Bruyne and Gvardiol. Akanji also picked up a yellow in injury time. The citizens are definitely without Oscar Bob, while Ake is expected to be sidelined by an injury picked up on international duty in the Netherlands draw with Germany. They're hoping Phil Foden will be back after missing England's duty with illness, and that Savio Moreira de Oliveira will return after a knee issue made him miss the West Ham game. Brentford also won their last match 3-1 at home to Southampton. The Bees used a 4-3-3 with Mark Flecken in goal and a back four of Christopher Ayer, Nathan Collins, Ethan Pinnock and Vitaly Janelt. Matthias Jensen, captain Christian Nørgaard and Mikael Damsgaard were in a midfield three, while Brian Burmo, Johan Wissa and Kevin Schade were the front three. Hakon Valdemarsson, Sepp van den Berg, Ben Mee, Mads Roslav, Fabio Carvalho, Yahoya Moliak, Eunice Konak, Ryan Trevitt and Keane Lewis Potter were on the bench. And Burmo got booked after half an hour, while 10 minutes later Ayer was forced off for Roslav. And Burmo gave Brentford the lead just before half time and scored again 20 minutes into the second half. Not long after, Visser made it 3. Pinnock picked up a yellow while Lewis Potter and Van den Berg replaced Janelt and Schade. Carvalho also replaced Damsgaard late on, while in injury time they conceded to Yukinari Sugawara. The Bees have a pretty big injury list, while Joshua Da Silva, Gustavo Nunes Fernandes Gomes, Jensen, Rico Henry, Aaron Hickey, and Igor Thiago Nascimento Rodrigues are all out. Ayer had to withdraw from Norway duty, but Thomas Frank has stated he is available. Jensen is a loss for Brentford, who have won 3 games out of 4 in all competitions. However, the other game was a pretty routine 2-0 defeat away to Liverpool, and I predict more of the same here. Brentford have frustrated City before with their win 2 seasons ago, still the last time City have been beaten at the Etihad in any competition, and have the highest pressing per defensive action stat in the league. They normally have the number of Haalands, but with all of Man City's attacking options, you can pretty much spin a roulette. And because the Norwegians in such good form, I'll say 2-0 Man City. On to the half-5 game as Aston Villa host Everton. Villa won their last match 2-1 away to Leicester. They used a 4-4-2 with Emiliano Martinez in goal and a back four of Lamar Bogard, Ezri Konsa, Pau Torres and Luca Digne. Leon Bailey, Amadou Onana, Yuri Tielemans and captain John McGinn were in midfield, while Morgan Rogers and Ollie Watkins were the front two. Joe Gauci, Olivier Zish, Kostin Nedeljkovic, Ian Madsen, Sil Svinkles, Ross Barkley, Emiliano Buendia, Jacob Ramsey and John Duran were on the bench. Onana picked up an early yellow, while Bailey came off early on for Ramsey. Onana put Villa in front, while Tielemans was booked 5 minutes before half-time. Bogard was booked 10 minutes into the second half, while on the hour, Duran and Barkley came on for Watkins and Onana. Duran soon doubled Villa's lead, but 10 minutes later, Facundo Buonanotte restored the 1-goal margin. McGinn was booked soon after, with Nedeljkovic and Madsen replacing Bogard and Ramsey 5 minutes after that. Duran was also booked in injury time. Boubacar Traore, Tyrone Mings, and Matty Cash are out, while Diego Carlos Santos Silva is not expected to return in time for the injury that saw him miss the Leicester game. Bailey had to come off with a thigh injury and is expected to miss this one, while Jaden Philogene-Bades missed the tie with the Foxes, but will probably be all right for the Everton game. 1-2. Everton lost their last match 3-2 at home to Bournemouth. They used a 4-2-3-1 with Jordan Pickford in goal and a back four of captain Seamus Coleman, James Tarkowski, Michael Keane and Vitaly Mikalenko. Timmy Robenham and Idrissa Gueye were in the engine room with Jack Harrison, Dwight McNeil and Iliman Ndiaye behind Dominic Calvert-Lewin in the front four. Joao Virginia, Jake O'Brien, Ashley Young, Roman Dixon, Abdoulaye Doucouré, James Garner, Jesper Lindström, Harrison Armstrong and Beto were on the bench. Everton took the lead 5 minutes into the second half through Keane, and minutes later Calvert-Lewin doubled their lead. Keane was booked 15 minutes from time, while a few minutes later Doucouré replaced Ndiaye. Antoine Semenyo halved their lead, and Beto replaced Calvert-Lewin. In injury time, Lewis Cook scored an equaliser, and Irobanam were booked. Even later, they fell to a winner from Luis Sinistera. Armando Broja, Yusuf Romalo Chermiti, Nathan Patterson, and Jared Branthwaite are all still out, as is the out of contract Bamidele Ali. Coleman was forced off in the Republic of Ireland's defeat to England and withdrew from the squad, putting his place in doubt, with Sean Dyche saying it was touch and go. This is a bit of a rum-do for Everton, who have had a hard start to their last season at Goodison Park. They went from worse, but with unflattering 3-0 and 4-0 scorelines against Brighton and Spurs, to much better than Bournemouth, but somehow throwing it away. If they held on to that result, they would have a bit more time. I still think they're much better than their position, last, suggests, but the pressure will be on and they'll probably lose this one again. The big question for Villa comes up front. Ollie Watkins had 32 direct goal involvements last season, but he's looked like he's forgotten how to score, and earlier, John Duran has come on to replace him in games. The Colombian has only started 3 games in his Villa career, but come off the bench and gotten 2 goals already. In the history of the Premier League, only Erling Haaland has a better goals per 90 ratio of those who have scored at least 5, with Duran netting once every 96 minutes. Haaland is also the only person to beat his goals per 90 of 2.2. His 7 goals since the start of last season have come from a total of 2.74 xg and 10 shots on target. Meanwhile, Watkins scored 19 from 18.45 xg and 49 on target. High-profile misses for Watkins against Arsenal in particular have cast further doubt on the England man, who withdrew from September's international camp. Each stat is way down for Watkins, with Duran having brilliant numbers. The brilliant performances by Morgan Rogers also mean it's difficult to justify playing both of them. Unai Emery has a big decision to make, but he can at least complain Watkins has a knock if he doesn't start. Anyway, I'm not sure about Villa's defence, but I still see them winning. I'll call it 2-0 at home. There's the first game of the season in the Saturday 8 p.m. slot as Bournemouth host Chelsea. The Cherries won their last game 3-2 away to Everton, using a 4-2-3-1 with Kepa in goal and a back four of Julian Araujo, Ilya Zabarnyi, Marcos Senesi and Milos Kerkez. Captain Lewis Cook and Ryan Christie were in the engine room, while Antoine Semenyo, Justin Kluivert and Marcus Tavernier were behind Evan Nielsen in the front four. Mark Travers, Dean Huyson, Adam Smith, James Hill, Max Evans, David Brooks, Alex Scott, Dango Ouattara and Luis Sinistero were on the bench. Bournemouth found themselves behind 5 minutes after the break, thanks to Michael Keane and Dominic Calvert-Lewin made it 2 not long after. With 25 minutes to go, Sinistera, Scott and Ouattara replaced Evan Nielsen, Christie and Kerkez. Semenyo was booked 10 minutes after that, and Huyson and Smith came on for Senesi and Araujo. In the late stages, Semenyo got one back and Cook equalised in injury time. Then Sinistera got a last-minute winner. Bournemouth are without Enes Unal and Tyler Adams, while Philip Billing missed the last couple of games with a back issue. Of course, Kepa can't play his parent club. Chelsea drew their last game 1-1 at home to Crystal Palace. They used a 4-2-3-1 with Robert Sanchez in goal and a back four of Malo Gusto, Wesley Fofana, Levi Colwill and Marc Cucurella. Moises Caicedo and captain Enzo Fernandez were in holding midfield, with Noni Madueke, Cole Palmer and Pedro Neto behind Nicholas Jackson in the front four. Philip Jurgensen, Alex Disasi, Tosin Adorabioyo, Mihailo Mudryk, Kiernan Dewsbury Hall, Cesare Casade, Renato Veiga, Joao Felix and Christopher Nkunku were on the bench. Neto got an early booking, but Jackson gave Chelsea the lead after 25 minutes. Fofana was also booked, while early in the second half, Eberechi Eze equalised. Soon after, Felix came on for Neto, Jackson got booked, while with 15 to go, Mudryk replaced Gusto. 10 minutes later, and Nkunku came on for Madueke, while Palmer was booked in added time. Reece James is definitely out, and the same is expected for Amari Kellyman, who pulled out of the England under-20 squad. Romeo Lavia may just miss this one after missing the last few games, while Cole Palmer will probably be fine despite pulling out of the England squad. Gusto had to come off against Palace and may not be ready for this one, while Philip Jurgensen had to come off in Denmark under-21's home win over Czechia and also might not be fit. This is an interesting one. In the last game, Chelsea should have battered Palace, but somehow only managed to draw 1-1, while Bournemouth should have been on the other side of a hammering until Everton engineered a catastrophic meltdown. Honestly, Chelsea's problems are very simple, scoring goals. I still don't rate Bournemouth too highly and think they'll regress to the mean. I'm going to say Chelsea dominate this one, but only win it 1-0. That may surprise you as Bournemouth have the third highest XG in thermo shots, with the Cherries fourth in presses per defensive action. But I just think Chelsea could take control of this one. On to Sunday, and at 2 p.m, Spurs host Arsenal. Tottenham's last game was a 2-1 defeat away to Newcastle, in which they used a 4-2-3-1. Guglielmo Vicario was in goal, with a back four of Pedro Porro, Radu Dragusin, Christian Romero, and Destiny Adogi. Papsar and Yves Bissouma are in the engine room, with Wilson Odobert, James Maddison, and captain Son Heung-min behind Dejan Kulusevski in the front four. Fraser Forster, Jed Spence, Ben Davies, Archie Gray, Lucas Bergvall, Rodrigo Bentancur, Alfie Devine, Timo Werner, and Brennan Johnson were on the bench. Late in the first half, Sarr was booked before Harvey Barnes put the Lily Whites behind. Johnson replaced Sarr at half time, while Bissouma was booked early in the second half. Adam Burnham goal levelled it, while Maddison was booked halfway through the second half. 5 minutes later, Werner came on for Odobert, but another 5 minutes saw Alexander Isak win the game for Newcastle. Bergvall and Bentancur replaced Maddison and Bissouma, with Bentancur soon getting booked. Richarlison de Andrade missed that game with injury and might not be back in time for this one, while Dominic Solanke and Mickey van der Veen were close to being available, so Spurs will be more hopeful they can make it, with Solanke considered the more doubtful of the two. Yves Bissouma has also been considered a minor doubt after he came off early in Mali's win over Eswatini. Arsenal drew their last game 1-1 at home to Brighton. They used a 4-3-3 with David Royer in goal and a back four of Ben White, William Saliba, Gabriel Magalhaes and Jurrien Timber. Captain Martin Odegaard, Thomas Partey and Declan Rice were the midfield three, with Bukayo Saka, Kai Havertz and Leandro Trossard the front three. Tommy Setford, Jakub Kivior, Alexander Zinchenko, Ricardo Calafiori, Jorginho, Mars Lewis Skelly, Ethan Nwaneri, Salah Eddin Ouladimhand and Gabriel Martinelli were on the bench. Havertz put them in front just before half-time and Rice was booked. Rice got his second yellow soon after the break and Joao Pedro equalised 10 minutes later. Calafiori came on for Trossard while Timber was booked 10 minutes later. Martinelli replaced Odegaard and a few minutes later Zinchenko replaced Timber. Royer was booked in injury time. Mikel Merino, Takahiro Tomiyasu, Kieran Tierney and the suspended Rice will definitely miss this one, while Odegaard should also be out after coming off injured in Norway's win over Austria, despite Mikel Arteta refusing to formally rule him out. Before the Brighton game, Arteta said he thought Gabriel Fernando de Jesus would be with us really soon, so he could be ready this time. Calafiori was forced off in Italy's win over France and then withdrew from the Italy squad, but it's hoped he'll be available. All right, a tough one to predict this. Obviously, Arsenal are better than Spurs, but are away and are missing two of their midfield three. Thomas Partey should remain available, but it'll be interesting to see how they have set up. Rice didn't have the best Euros and has had his passing numbers go down so far this season, apart from accuracy, which is up to a league-leading 97.1% for players who have played more than 90 minutes, and obviously picked up a needless red card, which cost the Gunners 2 points and ruled him out of this game. His defensive numbers have also decreased. Jorginho will probably come in for him. The Italian is not first choice for Arteta, but often used in big games. Slower than Rice, he had the most successful passes into the final third per 90 for Arsenal last season, which may suit Arsenal against the Lilywhites, who play a high line. I can see Arsenal sitting back and playing on the counter. However, this is where the lack of Odegaard comes in. With Jesus doubtful, they won't want to move Havertz from his position up front, and so Trossard is the most obvious attacking midfielder. He has come in for Martinelli, who has struggled a bit. However, even if the Belgian does move, Martinelli does have competition for the place in the form of Raheem Sterling. Throwing Sterling in the deep end may be risky in his first game, but they have had a full international break to prepare him. Arsenal played like this last season and won at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, and Postecoglou is known to almost never compromise his principles, even despite the opposition. I think it depends on attacking options, and with both teams having quality but also being wasteful, I was tempted to give both teams a 2-1 win. And we'll average things out with a 2-all draw. Really, I think it's 1.5 apiece. It depends how well they take chances on the day, but I'll be positive and say 2-2. Half four game sees Wolverhampton Wanderers host Newcastle. Wolves drew their last game 1-all away to Nottingham Forest. They used a 4-4-1-1 with Sam Johnston in goal and a back four of Nelson Semedo, Yerson Mosquera, Craig Dawson and Totti Gomes. The second bank of four was Jean Rickner Bellegarde, Joao Gomes, Captain Mario Lemina and Ryan Ait Nouri. Mateusz Cunha was behind Jurgen Strand Larsen, Dan Bentley, Matt Doherty, Santiago Bueno, Andre, Tommy Doyle, Pablo Sarabia, Huang He-Chan, Rodrigo Gomes and Gonzalo Guedes were on the bench. Bellegarde was booked early on before Chris Wood put them behind. However, they immediately responded through Bellegarde. Joao Gomes was also booked, as was Totti just before the break. Lemina was booked in the second half, with Doyle and Huang on for Joao Gomes and Ait Nouri. Guedes and Doherty came on for Bellegarde and Semedo. Late on, Andre came on for Larsen. Enzo Gonzalez and Medina and Sasa Kalajdzic are still out following long-term injuries. This game is also probably too close for Boubacar Traore. Mosquera had to come off in Colombia's win over Argentina, but should be fine, while Lemina and Ait Nouri picked up knocks. However, they too are expected to be all right, although they will be monitored. Newcastle won their last game 2-1 at home to Spurs. They used a 4-3-3 with Nick Pope in goal and a back four of Tino Livramento, Emil Krath, Dan Burn and Lloyd Kelly. The midfield three had Sean Longstaff, captain Bruno Guimaraes and Joel Linton, Anthony Gordon, Alexander Isak and Harvey Barnes were the front three. Martin Dubravka, Kieran Trippier, Matt Targett, Lewis Hall, Alex Murphy, Sandro Tonali, Jacob Murphy, Miguel Almiron and William Osula were on the bench. Kelly was booked about half an hour in, while 10 minutes later, Barnes put them in front. Longstaff was booked, as was Joel Linton in added time. A burn on goal 10 minutes after the break pegs them back, and then Guimaraes was booked. Jacob Murphy soon replaced Barnes. Tonali and Hall came on for Longstaff and Kelly before Isak put them back in front late on. Almiron replaced Gordon in added time. Sven Botman, Jamal Lascelles, Lewis Miley and Callum Wilson will definitely miss this one. Joseph Willock should also miss it, as he is not back in full training, while Krath should be fine despite nursing a problem that led him to drop out of Sweden duty. Fabian Schär returns from suspension. Wolves have changed formation but kept up the same pretty rough form that they ended last season with. They started with 2 losses and a draw, and this is another tricky game. Sandro Tonali is now back from suspension and got some minutes against Spurs, in which he was full of energy. I'm not the biggest advocate for Newcastle, but things look tough for Gary O'Neill's side. The Magpies did struggle away to Bournemouth, but I think they'll have the attacking quality to win this one. 3-1. Week to call, but after the first 3 game weeks teased us, we'll now be looking forward to regular football, with many teams basically playing 2 matches a week, one in the league and one in the Cups or Europe. It's going to be week in, week out as well. And I know there's a couple more international breaks, but apart from that, so yeah, some teams playing twice a game, as I said. Let me know what you think about this one. It's an interesting week. Liverpool and Man City have pretty routine games. Arsenal have a really tough one with the injuries. At the other end, there are some tight ones. Fulham West Ham will be probably the most interesting one out of the games, well, out of the games that aren't the North London derby. Let's be honest, that's the biggest one. But let me know, what do you think is going to happen in the North London derby? I'll be interested to see how people think Arsenal will line up. The way I see it, obviously, we know the goalie and back four, assuming Timber starts. I would imagine it will be Partey, Jorginho, Trossard, and then Saka, Havertz, and probably Martinelli, but perhaps Raheem Sterling. We'll see. If there are any Arsenal fans, let me know. And we'll see you in whenever it is, a couple days for the review. Thanks for watching.